So a couple of years ago, there were some elections over in Ontario, and I was tracking some of them, and I found that there were 85 candidates who were endorsed by the Ontario Secondary Schools Teachers Federation, the OSSTF. And out of those, they elected 58. If a political party had gotten those numbers, we would have heard of the champagne corks popping in Vancouver, because the most successful political party in Canada is a teachers' union. They now control billions upon billions of dollars of educational budgets, which don't necessarily have quite the same oversight as, say, the federal or provincial governments, and this gives them a lot of discretion. But in the meantime, the ATA has announced that part of their opposition is going to be funding community groups, which is, of course, not very good code as a code for activist organizations.
Yes.
So I've seen them at work already. You see, back on March 19th, a United Conservative Party Constituency Association, that's Smith's party, a local organization, hosted what it called the Let Kids Be Kids Town Hall. And I was one of the invited speakers, so I got to see it close up. And they were hosting it at a little movie theater in Calgary, or it was really formerly a fairly large theater that's now run independently. And they got something like 600 nasty calls and emails from little activist groups that nobody had ever heard of before. And they carried messages on Facebook and things saying, this is how to call Eventbrite to cancel their ticketing. And here's how you contact the theater. So the theater got 600 nasty calls and emails by the weekend before the event. Interestingly, one of those calls was actually from the Alberta Teachers Association. And they called up to say, we're canceling the event we have planned next month because you're hosting a hate group. And there's a very confused cinema employee who said, I'm sorry, a hate group? Wait, are you talking about the United Conservative Party? Yes, that hate group.
So now, John, I got to ask you, because it's not just Alberta, it's not just Ontario, it's teachers' associations, unions across the country that have been just taken over by this SOGI, trans, leftist ideology. And I come to the conclusion that it was done on purpose, as you just pointed out, in Ontario, where they funded all these people to run for it. Mm-hmm. So it's being done on purpose. Why? What are they after?
Well, look, Will, we have sent too many people to university. There is a lot of competition for elite jobs because everybody who's been to university believes in their own great dignity and worth and wants a job that's commensurate with what they see as their real value. But there just aren't enough jobs to go around. And so people compete hard for it, and what you're saying is mostly just elite competition. So why would somebody twist, say, critical race theory around, right? Critical race theory works like this. I've got power in a relationship, and I'm not going to exercise it in a way that duplicates some structure of oppression that my client has experienced. Fine. What I'm not going to do is turn to my client and say, you must check your privilege and give up your power to me, who's the person who has all the power in the relationship, right?
Yes.
That's twisted. That's what's going on in our classrooms. That's what's going on in our school boards, right? So when the woke teacher stands up in front of the classroom and says to her children or to her students, you must check your privilege, she's taking power away from them. And more importantly, she's taking power away from the parents. One of the ways this comes out is in the argument that people sometimes make that, but children have a right to privacy. And you get this from human rights advocates. You get this from child welfare advocates and so on. But let's just dissect that argument. What's really being said is that the child has a right to privacy, huh? Well, who exercises that right?
Yes.
The child's a minor. The person making the argument that the child has a right to privacy is someone who works for the state, who embodies the power of the state, the terrible coercive power of the state. And they're saying that I, acting for the state, should be able to exercise the rights of children against the parents.
Right.
That's not how human rights works.
No, and it's completely illogical, too. And this argument makes no sense whatsoever, because what they're saying is, okay, so this minor child has a right to make their own decisions, except they're not making their own decisions. The school board and the teachers and the government are making their decisions.
Absolutely right to connect that to the whole DEI thing. What we've got is this weird version of critical theory that's been dumbed down so you can put it into an education faculty. I'm sorry, teachers everywhere. But teachers don't generally get taught the whole version of any fancy philosophical idea. So this CRT we're seeing is dead simple. There's oppressors and victims. And they're always going to be separate, and you have to go with the victims. And all you have to do to be allowed to oppress someone is to portray yourself as a victim.